secret to not being broke.
Oops.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah, we better say it again. Hello, everyone.
Hello. Okay. Today we are talking about the secret to not being broke. I'm not quite sure where we're going to go with this today.
What is the secret? No.
Oh, I know what the secret is. It's just trying to figure out the best way to go about to get people to get the secret into their thick noggins.
Aha.
David says good luck. So, just a little background. Mike and I have both been broke. Hello, everyone. I grew up in the 80s, the 70s and 80s. My mom raised two teenagers on $500 a month after my dad left us with no child support. And then she became disabled, and we had to live on $500 a month for the rest of my high school years. The first part of it, she was paying off my dad's debt and our house, and she made $1,000 a month, lived on $500 and put $500 on her debts and her house. Mike and I lived on $350 a month when I moved out of Mom's house before I got married. And then Mike and I lived on about $6 an hour for a couple of years. Then we started working our way up. And now we're not living on a dime anymore. So, the secret to not being broke. Now, how did this come about today? Well, let me tell you. If we're looking down, guys, if you can't see it, we have computers in front of us so we can moderate the comments. Some people have commented on that. That's why we look down to look at the comments.
What?
I am the author of the Dining on a Dime cookbook. Eat better, spend less with Dining on a Dime. And Dining on a Dime came about because I was on a chat board in the late 90s with my first pregnancy when I was on bed rest, and everyone kept asking me, how do I save money on this? How do I save money on that? And so I would give them the answers. And then I read a book called the Tightwad Gazette, and she said in there how she did not want to write a cookbook, and I thought, well, I'll write that cookbook. Little did I know writing it is the easy part when you're writing books. But Dining on a Dime was born out of necessity for us. It was born out of Mike and I and two kids. Our grocery bill was $125 a month. So why am I telling you guys all that? Because I don't want you guys to think that
Criticizing people that we haven't done it ourselves.
Yeah, that we are just some middle class people who have no idea of the real world and what it's like to be broke, and well, you just don't know how to stop being broke because you've never been broke. We actually have been broke, and now
We're not.
We are financially strong, and we're going to tell you how to be financially strong and how to be financially stable. Okay? Yep. Now, how did this come about? So in the last 10 days, 2 weeks, and maybe it all came together so I would do this show, but in the last 10 days or 2 weeks, I have talked to between 7, 8, 9, somewhere around 7 and 9, I don't know, somewhere around there, people who have all been broke. Everything from an 18-year-old all the way up to 60-year-old. And in talking to these people, we noticed, that there's similarities in what they're saying.
People that have been really broke for a long time and struggling and can't figure out why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And people who have a grocery budget that is double almost double my mom's. My mom's grocery budget is $80 a month. That's what she lives on. We're doing that series on our Social Security series, so you can go look at that on our playlist. But when I see these people and they're spending $150, $200 on one person to eat, and then they say, well, it's expensive in my area where I live. And so this actually inspired me, because we're going to be doing another series on grocery prices across the country, and I want you guys to comment for me in the description below if you think you live in an area where your grocery prices are really high. We're going to do the United States and Canada.
Ooh, Canada.
Please comment and leave a city and state, because I asked my assistant Heidi to go do a search across the country, and quite frankly, she couldn't really find any places where grocery prices were really outrageous. So, across the country, the United States. So, if you guys want to leave a comment in the description below, please let us know where your expensive groceries are, and we would like to take a look at them.
Do I need to grab those, or will they stay afterwards?
Huh?
Do I need to grab them, or will they stay afterwards?
They'll probably stay afterwards.
Okay,
but if you get a few, go ahead and let us. Heidi's on here, so if you catch it, Heidi too. And so as I was looking at these people's grocery prices, I was like, well, that's really not that bad. So this one particular person, I got to talking, and I said, well, can you cut this? No, can't do that. It's just too high here. Okay. Then another person had really high car insurance. And I said, okay, you're driving a 2008 car. Could you get an older car? And your car insurance could go down possibly. No response. Didn't want to do that. So then I said, well, your food bill sounds like it's pretty high. Why are you having a problem making it stretch the whole month? Well, I just can't do it here in my city. So then we talked to another person, and well, I just don't earn enough money. Well, I just can't do it because I'm in school.
If you say well at all.
I just can't do it because I have kids. And so we started noticing this trend, which actually we've seen for years now, which is part of our frustration. Susie, yeah, see, Susie says, we don't have an Aldi here. I don't have an Aldi here either. And I spend about $400 a month on groceries. They're saying it's out of sync. I don't know if that matters.
Yeah, that's
okay.
what I was trying to figure out, but
moderating
unfortunately I have no
Facebook?
idea how to
Are
fix
you
it.
moderating on Facebook?
What?
Are you moderating on Facebook? It's
Yeah.
on your computer. That's the issue.
And so we got to thinking, and as I was looking in this, Oregon City, Oregon, okay? We'll maybe check that one out and see.
See if that fixes it. Okay. Which means I
Mike
need to
just
do it
tried
again.
one thing real quick to see. What do you need to do?
I'll need your computer if I'm going to moderate.
Oh, why?
Because mine is the one running the show, and that's why Dave says that's why it's out of sync.
Oh,
Whenever I try
okay.
to run Facebook on there and the show doesn't make time.
Okay, well, hold on. I gotta get my notes here.
Okay.
Okay, so as we were hearing these excuses over the last 10 days, I think that's right here. It reminded me of a Bible verse. And if you're not a Christian, you don't believe in the Bible, please just hang on. This isn't going to be a lecture. Well, yes, it's going to be a lecture, but it's not going to be preaching.
It's not a Bible class.
It's not a Bible class. But it reminded me of this. Scroll up so I can read it. And this is a fairly well-known Bible passage. And I'm going to paraphrase. It's John 5, 1 through 15. And it is about the healing at the pool. And there was a guy who spent 38 years sitting at the edge of this pool. And at the edge of the pool, every day, an angel would come by and stir the water, and the first person in the water would be healed.
And he's lame.
Yeah, and he was lame. Here, a great number of disabled people used to lie: the blind, the lame, the paralyzed. One who was there had been an invalid for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in this condition for a long time, he asked him,
"Do you want to get well?"
"Sir," the invalid replied, "I have no one to help me into the pool, and when the water is stirred, while I am trying to get in, someone else goes down ahead of me."
So he didn't even say yes, did he?
He didn't even say yes. Then Jesus said, "Get up, pick up your mat and walk." And once the man was cured, he picked up his mat and walked. Then it went on to say that, this took place on the Sabbath. And the Jewish leaders said to the man who had been healed, "It is the Sabbath. The law forbids you to carry your mat." But he replied, "The man who made me well said, 'Pick up your mat and walk.'" So they asked him, "Who is this fellow who told you to pick up your mat and walk?" The man who was healed had no idea who it was, for Jesus had slipped away into the crowd. Later, Jesus found him at the temple and said to him, "See, you are well again. Stop sinning, or something worse may happen to you." The man went away and told the Jewish leaders that it was Jesus who had made him well. Okay, so as I was kind of thinking about this a little bit, I thought, you know what? This is the problem. Do you really want to stop being broke? Do you really want to try and improve your circumstances? Do you really want to stop living paycheck to paycheck? Do you really want to learn how to be financially strong and how to be financially stable so you're not always worrying where your next paycheck is going to come from, which bills you're going to pay this week because you can't pay them all? Do you really want to stop living this way?
And honestly, it's funny because when Tara was gone, I asked this question because we realized people ask the question, how do I do this? How do I do that? And there's always an excuse. Mm-hmm. And then finally I think, do you really want to get out of debt or save money or get into a better financial situation than you're in?
Yeah. And it's really interesting because in this Bible verse, Jesus asked him, "Do you want to be well?" He did not say, "Yes, I want to be well." He made an excuse.
He just said, "Oh, nobody
right away.
I'm always hanging out here and nobody's here to help me."
He made an excuse right away. Now, the first thing that I notice about this, and this was pointed out by Joyce Myers, where I heard this from, and I was like, she's right. Why didn't he do this? This man had been lame for 38 years. Now, who knows how many years he had been sitting at the edge of this pool, but he was not at the edge of the pool because he said that he needed to be carried down there. After that long of time, why, if he had been really, truly wanting to be healed, why did he not inch himself down to the edge of the pool every single day? I don't care if it's a millimeter is all the further he got each day. Why didn't he at least get to the edge of the pool? He could have put his toe in, he could have put his finger in on the day the angel that had stirred it, and he didn't. Why? Because I don't think he really wanted to. And here's the thing. The secret to not being broke, you have to want to not be broke.
More than you want to do the stuff that's making you broke.
Exactly.
Yeah. Because I think a lot of people say they don't want to be broke, or and that's true, that they want to stop being broke. But the thing is that they love the things that are causing them to be broke more than they love the idea of not being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I found it very interesting that, one person that I had talked to spent, her parents spend $500 a month on beer. And yet they keep coming to her over and over again saying, well, our brake's broken. We can't pay for our brakes. What are we going to do? And the daughter's fault is bailing them out, okay? If someone is doing that, you don't bail them out, period. You let them figure it out. I don't care if they're your parents. If they're being irresponsible, it is not your responsibility to bail them out, okay?
But if you do it, then you make yourself responsible, and then it becomes your responsibility when it shouldn't have been.
Yeah. The next thing that I noticed was people don't want to do the work necessary to stop being broke, okay? So another person that I talked to, I said, well, why aren't you working now? Well, I got hurt at my last job and I haven't been able to do that job. Well, the particular, not really disability, the particular injury, the particular injury that they had wouldn't prevent them from doing other jobs. They were perfectly capable of doing other things. They just couldn't do heavy lifting. Okay, so figure out what you can do. Figure out what you can do for that other job. Here's another one. Deborah says right here, are people spending $300 on a month on food, eating hot dogs and canned beans? Right there. Deborah's got the perfect mentality. She doesn't want to learn how to lower her grocery bill. Dining on a Dime cookbook right here. Eat better, spend less. No excuses. $400 a month is what we spend on our family of 6, and I am not being careful. I mean, I'm careful compared to most people, but I could probably cut my food bill down to $200 easily and feed our family. I really could. If I wanted to go into ultra tightwad frugal mode. I don't want to do that right now. Our finances are in order. But here's the thing. It takes work. You need to look at the ads and see what's on sale. You need to get a good basic cookbook. Learn how to cook at home. I don't care if you're working 8 hours a day. You can come home and cook. My grandmother was both my grandma and her mom were both farm wives. They would work on the farm along with my grandfathers and come home and cook a full-fledged lunch and a full-fledged dinner and a full-fledged breakfast every single day. They cooked 3 full meals a day. We have just gotten to the point where we're lazy. It's just plain laziness. And we were talking to another person and they said, I don't have car insurance. And we're like, what? You can't do that. You'll get in really big trouble if you get caught without car insurance. Well, I just can't pay for it. Well, then you need to go get another job. I'm sorry, but it does boil down to that. If your job that you have now is not paying your bills, you need to go get a second job or go find a better paying job.
Well, in her case, she has a job that gives her like 24 hours a week.
Yeah, so she needs to get another job.
There's time to do more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I have to say, when I commented on Wednesday, one of our Q&A, somebody asked me, what are you going to do when your house is paid off? And I had said, I had really thought about just stopping doing this because I'm tired of the people whining. And I had been in conversation with one of these people that is moaning and groaning about not having any money. And they just really didn't want to change.
Well, actually, the person said she wanted to change, and then Tara was back and forth with her quite a few times, and in the end, it became clear that there was always a reason why nothing was going to work. And in the end, I think she just liked being in that situation more than not. I mean, people say, I don't want to be in this situation, but in somewhere deep down, it's more comfortable for you than getting out.
Yeah. It is.
Which means you like it better.
Yeah.
Than getting out.
Yeah, it is. And so once again, the secret to not being broke is making up your mind that you are not going to live like this anymore and you are going to figure out how you are going to move yourself forward. I don't care what it is you have to do. You inch your way forward and you keep moving forward instead of making excuses. If you took all that time that you had spent making excuses and put it into something productive, going to thrift stores to buy your clothes instead of shopping at the store, learning to color your own hair, learning to do your nails for $2 instead of going and getting them done for $25.
Well, and we have had people say, I wouldn't lower myself to doing my own this or that, or to doing this, or to driving a car that I don't like that much. If that's the case, that means you like being broke better. And you need to just admit it and say, I like being broke.
Yeah.
And live with it.
Yeah.
Or take positive action to change it.
Yeah.
And that's mostly what when we talk about all the different tips and things about how to save money on groceries and how to, save on all these things, that's the idea, is trying to think, where can you cut? Because I think we've talked about, times where we've had the revelation. Well, Tara grew up kind of in that situation, but for me, having a revelation at one point that, wow, all I really need is a roof over my head and food and clothes. That's about it. Mm-hmm. And everything else is optional. And I think people lose track of that. And the reason why they lose track of that partly is, I don't want to give up these things, therefore I'm not going to be prosperous. And you don't have to give up everything. And it's funny because people talk also about not being deprived. Sometimes what you think is deprived isn't, until you're away from it, you don't realize that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now I realize for us, this is a way of living. And this is the way that we have chosen to live so that we can be financially stable. Because growing up, not having a financially strong background, I wanted to be financially stable in my marriage. So that meant he wasn't going to go buy a $100,000 truck without my permission.
I didn't want one, but I wanted $100,000 video equipment.
But same goes, he wouldn't let me go and buy $500 worth of clothes every month either, and just go charge and charge and charge because I was depressed today.
Well,
or I just was feeling blue. No.
Well,
you don't do that.
That's another thing that I've heard a lot of people talk about that say, I'm broke, I just don't know what to do, there's just no hope. I've been in that situation. Tara's been in that situation. But the thing is, there are certain ways you have to discipline yourself, and they're not fun. But if you're broke and you want to get out of that, one of the ways to stop being broke is to discipline yourself on those things, to say, I'm not going to have this for now, but I'll have it later. Like, I used to love to take pictures and do photography, go to movies and stuff. And before I met Tara, I would charge it. And I was in debt for that, a lot of debt for that. And there's a point where I realized I just can't. Tara basically said, you really can't do this at all. It's not like she was controlling me. I knew in my heart of hearts that I needed to stop. It's just that her saying that and me being married to her and feeling responsible for her and our situation, realized, okay, I really have to get some control of this. The thing is, if you say, oh, I'm kind of emotionally stressed, I get it. I get that all the time. I get emotionally stressed about things, and I want to eat or something. And the thing is, you have to overcome your emotional thing. Like people say, I'll go out and treat myself to a deli sandwich and a coffee, and or whatever.
As they're complaining about they don't have enough money to buy food at the end of the month.
And the thing is that these treats, it's like $12 a treat when you're broke and you have a very tiny amount of money per month. And, if that's a once a year thing, like for your birthday, okay. But the thing is, if you treat yourself every time you feel stressed, that'll be every day eventually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you'll always be in that situation.
And just so you guys, we just got a testimony here from Elizabeth. I haven't gone to the food pantry in 3 months since I first started following you guys. Good job. That is Elizabeth. The point. Those are okay if you need them for a temporary thing to help move you forward. but you're moving forward so that you're not going to the food pantry every single week. Now, please, every single time we do a show like this, we get somebody that says, well, I got both my legs and my arms chopped off and I can't do anything.
If that's
Guys,
you, that's a different story.
If you are severely disabled, we are not talking about those kinds of people, okay? But even mildly disabled people, I get people every time when I said, we got a comment from a lady that said, my husband is on disability with depression and anxiety, and he's running up the credit card bills, and I can't keep paying for it. And I was like, and then we had our how to get adult children out of the house. I said, if your kids are laying in the basement depressed, they need to get their butts up and get out of the house and get a job. Here's the thing,
guys. That's a great cure for depression, by the way, for a lot of depression. Not all depression, but a lot of depression is...
But here's the thing. The majority of the people who are complaining about being depressed and anxiety and all this stuff, it's because you are not taking responsibility, getting up, pulling up your bootstraps, going out and getting a job, and making the next step to make your life better. You have chosen to stay in that situation. You have chosen not to go in and get the medication to help you. You have chosen to not change your living situation. You have chosen to not change your job situation. That is your choice.
Well, and people will say, I can't get another job. Okay, I think what that translates to for most people is I'm afraid to get another. I'm afraid to go out there and try to get a job and be rejected.
Yeah.
Or I'm afraid that it's really, really hard and I don't know how I'm going to do it. But there's a point where really, really hard pays off.
Yeah.
And so sometimes you just have to really, tighten your belt a lot and say, I'm going to go out there and I'm going to get this job, and you might have to apply for 50 jobs before you get one. But once you get a much better job, it'll be a great thing.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with all the spending habits, Somebody was making reference to the debt snowball. Well, yeah, the thing with that is we were finding when we were paying off debt, there were little things, $5 here, or $10 there, where we'd say, oh, let's, we got $5, we got a few dollars as a refund from something. And we would just put that right on the debt. What's a small amount? It seems insignificant. We could treat ourselves, or we could pay it off on that debt. But pretty soon, those little things add up and become bigger things. Mm-hmm. And then you suddenly have a lot of space and you can pay it off. And you get so excited when you start doing that. And the same thing after you're paid off. Like right now, we're paid off of all that debt, although we're working on the house that way. Mm-hmm. And it's exciting on the house too. But afterwards, even, I would say in just figuring out how to save and improve our lives even more, after that would be the same kind of excitement.
Looks like you're missing a button here.
Oops.
You were trying to show him your chest hair, weren't you?
Yeah. Thank you. Now, the thing is, as far as I'm not seeing one thing about the depression is I have been depressed. I've been a lot depressed. I've been very anxious. And I found that when you are not active because you're depressed or anxious, it's going to make you worse. It's true, there are things that are causes that are not because you're not active, but not being active will magnify it even if you have some other cause. And one thing that I was thinking about disability, because when people want to stop being broke but they're on disability, if some disabilities like depression and anxiety, it's hard. I'm not going to say it's not hard. It's hard to go out there and...
Oh, I didn't say it was easy.
And to get some sort of a job or do something. But there are things you can do with the skill set you have. And if you're afraid, okay, what if I lose my disability? There's a certain amount you're allowed to do. And within that realm, I would experiment. Because, like, for instance, let's say you're dyslexic. Dyslexia is a disability, but the thing is, it's not a disability that prevents you from doing anything. It prevents you from doing certain things. And most disabilities are like that. I mean, if you're super, super disabled, like you can't think straight and you're in bed all the time and you don't have any of your body parts, obviously that's going to be a lot more of a challenge. You probably, in that situation, aren't going to be able to do that. But a lot of disabilities have some area where you have some capacity to do something, and just taking one step to improve that. And I'm not really speaking only to disabled people. I'm just saying even even if there's that, don't let it in your mind be a limiting thing for you, because I think people shoot themselves down on their success. And I think about, there's a guy, we've seen him speak a couple times. He was born with no arms and legs. And I would say that's pretty disabling. But the thing is, he's managed to make something amazing out of it in his life. And I think it's largely, if you just give in and say, I can't, then that's not a good thing. But what we see more often than I can't with disabled people or I can't with non-disabled people is I can't because I want something that's causing me to be broke.
Yeah.
Like, because I think it's amazing how many people think having a very expensive cell phone with a very expensive plan is a need.
Yeah.
The thing is, I know that most people have cell phones and it's nice, and even when, well, we weren't really in the broke situation when cell phones came out. Well, when we were able to get cell phones. But the thing is that you can have one and not have it be the fanciest one.
Yeah. The other thing is, okay, so next thing, we had a question, and I couldn't find the person, but they said something to the effect of, well, it's a lot easier when there's two people in the family for you to quit your job and get a better one. I'm by myself. How do you do that? See, you're making excuses again. There is no reason you cannot spend 40 hours a week. Yes, I said 40. I said, no, let me go back. Let me give you an hour to cook and an hour to relax. So that would be 6 times 5 is what? 30 hours a week. There's no reason why you cannot no, because you have the weekends, so you can spend 40 hours a week. 40 hours a week. You're working your job 8 hours, 40 hours a week on weekdays and the weekends looking for another job. Why aren't you doing that?
Well, something else is...
If you're on here with me, you have access to the internet. So that means you can be applying for another job while you still have your current job. No reason. 40 hours a week, you can be doing that. And that still gives you 8 hours a day to sleep.
Well, I would also say that Tara is chronically ill. And there are times when she just can't do anything for a while. Thankfully, it hasn't been recently that she hasn't been able to do anything. But there have been times where I'm the only person pretty much I'm the only person that's worked full-time at all. But there are times where I've worked full-time and nothing that she's doing is doing anything financially. And in those times, I still tried to figure out ways to get a better job. She did look around and help me sometimes figure that out. But the thing is, there is time to do it. You just have to be willing to spend your lunch hour doing it, or spend time on the weekends or in the evening. And it's not fun and it's not easy, but it's temporary. Once you get that job, then you can move out of what you're doing and you don't have to spend all that extra time doing that. That's one of the things that I would say on a lot of these things is, if you can get it in your mind that the struggle is temporary, that really helps, because a lot of the giving up things are only necessary for a season, or a lot of the difficulty in getting a better job is only necessary for a season until you get it. And it's hard, but if you plan, okay, I know I'm going to have to do this many, I'm going to have to apply for this many, and I'm only going to get so many interviews, and only so many of those are going to succeed, then it won't be as discouraging. Because you know, I have to fail so many times before I succeed.
And guys, if you want to stop being broke and you have a specific question, please post it and Mike will grab them, and I'm going to answer those here at the end of the show now. But I do want to say, this weekend I saw a video on a couple's net worth. Okay. I'm not going to give specifics, but I'm just going to say they made a very, very, very triple-digit incomes, good incomes, okay? And then some. And they're financial people, sort of. But when they added up all of their debts, student loans, cars, houses, everything, they were only worth $90,000, give or take. So out of curiosity, I was sitting there and I was like, well, I wonder what our net worth is. Because quite frankly, we haven't added it up. And we might do a show on this with specifics. And I'm not going to give you a specific number right now because of some legality things that we are dealing with at the moment. But I will just say, my jaw hit the floor when I realized how well we are doing now. And you know what? It was 25 years worth of busting our buns to get to this point.
From having absolutely nothing.
From having absolutely nothing, making $6 an hour. Me growing up with living in a home that was $500 an hour, $500 a month.
Well, and where you guys had to live in one room of the house in the winter because you just couldn't heat the rest of it.
Not being able to heat our entire house for the winter, that kind of thing, to where I can turn on the heat and I'm okay. I mean, I can turn it up to whatever I want now and I can pay that bill. And it is, I have to say, it is a wonderful feeling to be able to sit down, have a bill come in, you can sit down and pay it. You don't have to worry about if you got to wait for the next paycheck or anything like that. Now, things could change. I know people with 401ks and IRAs that had $1 million, $2 million saved up, and bam, just like that, it was gone. In 2008. So I understand that things can change and you can lose everything in a minute. But that's why everyone in our last show was like, well, why are you paying off your house? Why aren't you saving for retirement? Well, because if your house is paid off, you do not have, and all your debts completely paid off, you do not have to worry about how much money you're going to earn as much. You don't have to worry about if you're going to have a place to live. And so that is why we are focusing on getting our house paid first, and then we will work on getting our retirement. And for us, up until just a couple of years ago, we quite frankly just flat out didn't earn enough money to be putting into retirement. We were paying our bills as they came in, and we were very frugal, but we didn't have extra to be putting into retirement. And so we didn't worry about it. People worry and worry. What am I going to do about retirement? What am I going to do about retirement? Well, worry about getting your stuff paid off now.
Yeah, if you're up to your eyeballs in debt and paying a lot of interest on that, worrying about retirement is probably the last thing that should be on your mind. I mean, the thing is, if you're 75 years old, then yeah, that would be a big problem. But the thing is, for most people, if you're $100,000 in debt and you're paying a lot of interest on that, retirement should not be the main priority at that moment. Mm-hmm. The main priority should be getting out of debt. And what we're finding is, well, there was that whole kind of snowball with the debt where you pay off a little and it gets more, and you pay off what you were paying on that. You pay off something and then you pay the extra on the next thing instead of rewarding yourself and continuing to do that. But what we've discovered is now that we're paying off the house, which we for a long time didn't make a great effort to pay off the house, but it's just kind of the thing we decided we want to do now. And it's kind of snowballing the same way. Well, I think once it's paid off, then the retirement kind of planning will snowball the same way. Mm-hmm. And it's true, if we had it together when we were younger and we had more money coming in when we were younger, that we could have set aside a little at a time for retirement, and we would have, a pretty decent amount of that now. But I think that because of the situation and how it's improved, because we have made good choices on those things, mm-hmm. that we can then snowball. When the house is paid off, there'll be absolutely nothing that we're paying to, and there'll be a large amount we've been paying every month to try to pay down the house, mm-hmm. that will suddenly be available to us every month to put towards that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a good idea if you're in a job and you can put retirement in as you go and you're in great shape. But if you're upside down with a massive amount of debt, you need to really focus on the debt.
Yeah.
Because if you focus on too many different directions at once, none of them are going to be successful.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say so. Somebody, let's see, scroll down just a second. I just missed what. I keep going.
Which way's down?
Let's see. Wait a minute.
Oh, something else I would say, because somebody was talking about jobs not giving 40-hour schedule. I know that's the case, and I know that must be frustrating to people in those regular jobs. What I would say is, if you can figure out a way to, if you're doing a job like that and you want to keep it, if you could figure out a way to do something else in addition to that to kind of make up the difference. Because I was thinking about a lot of people I know that that are broke, and when I talk to them, they say they're only making $10 or $11 an hour, whatever the minimum wage is, or something close to it. And I think, wow, you can do something on the internet and not be very successful at it at all and make that much money. And so if you have 25 hours of work and they won't give you more than that, spend some of that time thinking, how can I develop something? And people look for someone else to give them a project to do, but if you can kind of think of something that you're good at and figure out a way to share that with people or buy or sell things, then you can often make more in that time than you make at a job that doesn't pay very well.
Yeah. Okay, so Mardella says, what you say is some truth. But if something major comes up after retirement, we could be in trouble. Just saying. Respectfully, LOL. So here's the thing. You're not going to be better off if
something comes up after retirement?
Meaning, we're paying off our house. I think she's meaning we're paying off our house first and not worrying about retirement first. Okay, so if your house isn't paid off,
Then
you're
we have
still going to have
retirement.
more money that you have to earn in retirement. That doesn't make sense.
Basically the retirement would be then paying for the house.
Yeah.
And
That doesn't make
Because I
sense.
know people who have a lot of retirement, but then they have a $2,000 a month mortgage.
Yeah.
And some of the ones I'm talking about, they're like 75 or 80 years old. And I'm thinking, if you're 75 or 80 years old and you have a $2,000 a month mortgage, that's frightening.
Yeah.
And I guess that our thinking is, we're not opposed to saving for retirement. But what we've noticed is kind of like the debt payoff. Let's go to credit cards for a minute. When we were in credit card debt, at first we were paying a little something to each credit card, and then we realized, well, that's kind of silly. Why don't we pay the least amount to these credit cards, and then the one that has the lowest balance, we'll pay everything else to that. And then and Dave Ramsey recommends that too now. But when we did that, we realized, wow, now suddenly we have less things. We paid off one. There are fewer things that we have to think about, and we were able to put all that money on the next one. And the thing is that that has a lot more power in driving the debt payoff, because now you're paying not only the minimum payment, but you're paying a lot of extra of the principal, which is the amount that you owe, not including the interest that you get charged every month. And then we paid off the next one, we realized, wow, there's a whole lot more money that we can pay on that. And we were still living like we were very poor. Even though we had paid off a couple things and we had a little bit of wiggle room in the budget, but we were taking that and putting it right towards the next debt to knock that out too. And the thing is,
we had a garage sales. We would sell stuff, put that on our debt. Mike had collectibles. We sold all those, put on that debt.
But what I'm getting at with regard to the retirement is, yes, it's important to have retirement when you're older. You're right. But we could try to chase a lot of different things at once and pay a little bit to each thing. Or we could put a massive amount towards one thing and eliminate it completely and then put all of our focus on the next thing. And our thinking is, if we have a house that's completely paid off, and where we live, houses are very expensive in Colorado. So, and our house is not very far from being paid off. So if we can get the house totally paid off, that's a huge amount of outlay of money every month that we never have to make again. And then we can put all that towards the retirement. Now, if one of us were to get disabled in the meantime, Tara's disabled, but she can still be on the show. But like for me, if I get disabled, we have insurance to cover that. And so there's that. But our intention then is to turn before I'm 50, we'd have the house paid off. Then we have time to be able to get the rest of it together. And we think in 10 years or less, we would be able to definitely have enough to retire comfortably.
Yeah. So
Because
if we
we're
can
paying
keep
off these other
doing
things
what
in
we're
the
doing
meantime.
now, even though we have zero retirement right now, in 10 years or less, we could have enough to retire. Right now, today, if something happened to one of us, we could liquidate all of our assets and have enough to live at least 20 years.
So
frugally,
and that's one of the
live
things.
frugally 20 years.
That's the thing we're thinking about the paying off things is that when you pay off things, if those things have value, then you can use that value in the place of that retirement, essentially. I mean, we could, right now, we could move to a lot of other states in the country and we'd have hundreds of thousands of dollars cash from just selling this house and buying a house somewhere else.
Yeah. Okay, so what can you do when you're on disability? If you're on disability, you can still work. I have worked many, many times, even with my disability, because I got sick when I was 19, and I was not about to live my life as a disabled person the rest of my life. And I kept trying and trying and trying to work, and I kept trying to find things that I could do. When you are on disability, you can get jobs and you won't lose your disability. Now, you may lose some of your payment, but if I remember correctly, you can earn like up to $600 a month, and after that, they take half of your disability. For each dollar that you earn, they take a half a dollar out for each that. If I remember correctly, that may not be right. It's been a long time since I've done that, but there's a certain percentage, so you can do that. You can do things like cook for neighbors and friends, baked goods, baked cookies. You could walk dogs. You could babysit. You could be a personal gardener if you're able to do those kinds of things. It just depends on your disability. So you can still do many different things. Have a garage sale. Sell your stuff that you're not using. Get rid of those things. And those are all, things that you can do. We did have the question here. Now that you guys are out of debt and paying significantly on the house, to what extent have you given yourself permission to change your lifestyle? What are your recommendations for planning for some fun with decorating, etc., a percentage of extra? We don't go by percentages. I have always decorated my house.
But she decorates. She loves decorating, so she does it for not a lot of money.
Yeah. I go to thrift stores. I go dumpster diving. I use a lot of paint to paint things. I use a lot of hand-me-downs, those types of things. My first house, when I moved out on my own when I was 19, I furnished my house completely. Couch, chairs, bed, plates, everything for $200. My first house that I moved in, every single thing. What do we do for fun? Mike and I go on a date about 3 times a month, 2 to 3 times a month now, and we'll go and split a $16 meal at 3 Margaritas, our favorite place to go eat.
But we tip as much as if we bought 2 meals because those people do have to do the work.
We have gone on a vacation now, finally. We did take, although it was a huge bomb, why anybody goes on vacation is beyond me. But anyway, we have gone and done a couple of things like that.
Somebody was asking, I can't remember.
Do you think using all your savings to pay off your credit cards? No. I would say keep $1,000 in savings so that if your car poops out or your microwave, your refrigerator, washer, dryer, whatever, if a major thing poops out, keep at least $1,000. $5,000 is better, but keep at least $1,000 in savings, and then I would put everything else on your credit cards and get rid of your credit card debt.
Well, do you think that it would be better to save enough to live on if something happens for a few months?
Well, it depends on how much your credit cards are. I mean,
because
if you're paying $29 a month interest, 29% interest, though.
Well, yeah. See, that's one thing people don't realize is a lot of times
kind
people save some money that's not making anything for them and paying a large amount of interest on something else. And that's where we realized, I mean, you don't want to be in a situation where you don't want to be in a situation where you have to then borrow because you've used all your savings. One thing that I was going to say, somebody asked about, do we change our lifestyle? So we have done some things, like we used to grieve a lot more over the car repairs. Like, oh, do we do this now? Does it really need to be done? I don't know. We still do ask those questions, like, like if it's going to be stupid to put money into it, we don't. But we've gotten to the point now where, you know, wow, we need new tires for this car. Okay, we buy them because we can. But in terms of spending a lot of money on things of little value, we just don't really, we kind of lost the desire to do that, really. Like, we do want to do things, like when we pay off the house, we would like to go on some kind of a somewhat extravagant vacation just to celebrate the fact that all these years we paid all that off.
Yeah.
But in general, yeah, we don't really have desire, right?
No, not
To
too
spend-
much. Yeah.
It's not that we feel like, oh, we've done all this and now we want to. After doing all this, like, we kind of like life without
Yeah.
spending a lot.
Yeah.
And we found a lot of ways to do a lot of cool things without spending a lot.
Yeah. Do we save for car repairs or do we put more towards the house for those months? So we have a minimum of, well, okay, so because we're self-employed, our income really fluctuates. We could earn $30,000 in 1 month.
And then nothing there for months and
Nothing
months.
for months and months. And so because we're self-employed, our income can fluctuate by great amounts. So what do? We keep $5,000 at all times for emergencies. If it goes below that, we don't put any money on the house until that is built back up again and do that. We have a significant amount of money in the business saved for book printing because we are self-published. We spend tens of thousands of dollars printing books. We do
not borrow to print the books.
And we do not borrow. We have zero business debt at all. And so we have that money so that if Mike fell off the roof and I can't hit record to go live to do the show, we could live off of that money we could probably live off of it for a year if we were super, super careful. If we were really careful. Our biggest problem in the recent past has been medical bills. We had to spend $30,000 year before last on medical bills between our son and myself. We spent probably 10 last year. We probably spent 10, you think, last year
what?
on medical bills?
Wait, last
total?
year, meaning the year BJ went to Mayo or
No,
not?
this 2018.
I think it was less than that.
But including the insurance?
Oh, yeah. Right, with the because we do medical sharing, which is...
We spent about $10,000 or $15,000 last year, so that
Yeah,
is
yeah,
a huge
it's about
chunk
10 or
for us.
15,000.
And we do use Liberty. Somebody asked, we used Liberty Health Share for that. Okay, next questions.
Sorry, I know this is a little off of what we usually talk about, but I didn't see what the reverse mortgage question is, but we absolutely do not recommend them.
Never.
Because you are basically then giving all of your value away, and it's kind of like when they reverse mortgage you, they do give you money out of your equity, but if you run out of it before you die, then they'll take away your house and you'll have nothing.
You would be better to sell your house and move into something you can afford, like a tiny house, not a tiny house, but I mean like a small house. I would even go so far as to say rent or something like that.
Tarana says she always uses the roof example. Stay off the roof, Mike.
Yes, exactly.
Mike's not uncommonly on the roof.
Yeah. What about MediShare? That's what we use.
It's like MediShare.
Yeah, very
Liberty.
similar to that. Okay, let's see. What other questions do we have here?
Seems like somebody asked about something else. I guess that we already answered that one. The savings for...
Somebody asked about a house warranty. Mom has a house warranty. We don't.
We think it's a waste of money.
I think it's a waste of money. Mom used to love hers, but by the time she paid that amount every month, I didn't see that it was actually helping her. So I really don't think that they're worth it. It's like $400 or $500 a month. The copay is like $80 for a visit you have to do for a copay. They come out, they don't fix it, it's still broken. You have to pay another copay for them to come out.
And they try to figure out how to pay the minimum amount possible. But if you just keep that money for yourself that you might have paid for it, then you can decide, do I think this is worth it? So like we've had them repair a heat and air system that we knew was totally failing. They just kept band-aiding it to make it last. Where now we would be able to move around the money and just buy a new one.
Yeah, yeah. How many square feet is our home? It is 1,400 square feet up and down both. Let's see here. What about a second mortgage to get a new roof and siding? Our roof is leaking and siding is rotting. Do you think your
wouldn't.
home insurance would cover any? Well,
Home
yeah,
insurance
call
might
your
cover it.
insurance and ask.
I wouldn't get a second mortgage.
Do not get a second mortgage. Get a second job. It's crazy for you to get a second mortgage to do that. All you're doing is just incurring more debt. And if you go back and watch the Penny Pinch Mama series, I'm sorry. I lived in a house that was literally leaking. We had kiddie swimming pools in our attic catching the water. And no, it wasn't ideal. But,
Well,
you got to do what you got to do.
and if you're older and it's not a good idea to get on the roof, that's an issue. But I have
Yeah.
gotten on our roof. We've had leaks where I've gotten up there and replaced a small section just temporarily until we were able
Okay.
to afford it.
People, I don't think you're understanding on the house insurance. We're not talking about your regular fire, tornado
House insurance,
insurance.
absolutely, you need to keep
You
house
have
insurance.
to have house insurance.
That's
We
called
are-
hazard insurance.
Yeah, we're talking about appliance repair insurance. It's like $400 a year, and they come in and they repair your appliances and stuff. That's what we were talking about. But house insurance, you must have
Well,
your house insurance.
And Polonia
Yeah.
says house insurance is necessary as long as you have the mortgage. Even if you pay
Yes.
off your house, you want to keep hazard
Yes.
insurance. That's like for fires and floods of things in your house and all kinds of
Yeah.
catastrophes.
Did we close all our credit cards? No. Do not close all your credit cards because you don't know when you're going to need that credit score for something. So we left our credit cards open. We just don't use them. We're careful. We have a business credit card and a personal credit card that we use almost every single day. We pay them off every single month.
Partly like for
Every
the
month.
business, we have money that has to come in and out all the
Yeah.
time, and we just have that card deal with that.
Yeah. Yep. So let's see.
If I didn't meet Tara, would I be as frugal as today? I don't know.
I don't think you would.
I would probably be more frugal than I was, but I think it was a definite change in my thinking to marry Tara
Yeah.
and some of the life experiences we've had.
Janine, did you ever check to see if you got sick from black mold? Okay, we get this question every single day almost. No, black mold was not what caused our sickness. I am personally allergic to black mold, but that is not what caused my sickness. And our house, believe it or not, despite all the leaking in Wichita, we never had any mold. We didn't. I think it was just a miracle from God because even with the roof leaking and everything, there was not mold in that house, which is very strange. But I think we didn't have mold in that house because the windows were so old and it was such a creaky house that the airflow in the house just kept it,
Yeah.
kept it so it didn't get moldy.
Shannon says we used to do check loans. I did learn though that was a quick fix with a bigger problem in the end. So always steer away from
Yes.
second mortgages, credit cards, etc. Yes, and check loans. Oh man, they're a major ripoff. Like that's very very crazy expensive. And if you do it through a payday loan place, you can a lot of times you can almost never pay them off.
Yep.
So I would definitely never do that. And what we discovered, we learned when we were paying off debt how to get 0% interest on credit cards. And so while we were paying off the debt, we would move them around in order to keep it at 0%. But then there's a point where we paid them off and we said, okay, only for emergencies. And something came up and we used the card and we realized, man, kind of got ourselves back in it again a little bit. And we realized there are no emergencies big enough to use a credit card.
Yeah, no.
Because if there are, you're going to use it all the time.
Yeah. White Picket Fence says you have Tara. You have to have fire insurance.
Yes, I would definitely want to always have, even when your house is paid off, you want that insurance because if all your money is in the house and you don't have insurance and the house burns down, all that work you did all those years is lost.
Yeah.
So yeah, you definitely have to have insurance for that.
Yeah. Okay, so to bring this back around to the secret of not being broke. The secret of not being broke is to stop making excuses, use your brain,
And to ask yourself,
and
do
figure it out.
I really want to be out
And
of debt?
Guys,
Or do I
just
really
to
want to be
prove
not
our
broke?
point, our 9-year-old right here.
Oh, yes.
Just to prove your point, this is 9-year-old stuff, guys. If you're over the age of 9, you should already have this. And I'm sorry if I can't sound condescending. It's the truth. And you need a wake-up call.
And it's not condescending. Tara's just, we've had this experience, and we're trying to share with you that you can too,
Yeah.
of not being broke.
Yeah. And if our 9-year-old can figure out these things, you guys can figure this out. Really, it's not rocket science. So the other day, it was Friday,
He said, I'm doing some math.
Jack came up and he said, I'm doing some math. And we had talked about on the show, I think, is this where you got the idea? Because we were talking about the books and how we
Yes.
didn't make, even though we sell the book for, this book right here, even though we sell dining for $24, that's not how much money we get to bring home for each book. Is that where you got the idea?
Yes.
Okay, so this is where he got the idea from, was from Wednesday's show when we were talking about how just because we sell the book for $24 doesn't mean that's what we get out of it, okay? So he came up with this, and what did you come up with?
So if it costs you $3 to make the products,
Mm-hmm.
but you need $3 from each product, like for food, and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have 2 people that are working for you to help make the products.
Who
And
gets paid?
You get paid 15 cents per product.
Uh-huh.
And then $300 a day for bills.
For
And then,
what kind of bills? For like
electricity and
Yep.
water and house.
For your
Yep,
business.
for your business.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then $30, 30 products, your average selling a day.
Uh-huh.
And then so I got that, and so I divided the how many products we sold
Mm-hmm.
by the 300 bills,
Uh-huh.
and that got 10.
Mm-hmm.
So I add that to the price,
Mm-hmm.
and then the 2 workers, it's 30 cents. So I would
Mhm.
add that to the price, and then you need 3, and it's $3 to cost it. So you'd add that, and the total is $16.30 for
Each product on how much you would have to
Let me see
sell
that.
it, right?
We just looked, and he was writing out kind of this kind of thing right here. We were thinking, that's brilliant. It's funny because David is in high school doing some pretty advanced math, and I was thinking, okay, a lot of it will be useful, but I was thinking this kind of math is really useful for everyone.
Because see, he sat here and figured out, okay, if I need to make this amount of money per day, how many products do I have to sell per day?
And how do I have to do all this stuff?
Judy says I need $3,500 to move, provided I have a piece of land and septic. Ugh. No, don't ugh it. You sit down and figure out how much you need to earn for each month or for 2 months, however long of time you have, and then figure out a way to do that.
And she might be. She's responding to somebody else.
And so what you guys don't get stuck in, oh no, I need this huge amount of change, huge amount for a bill. Instead, what can you change to get that money that you need? What can you sell? What can you do? Who can you help? Can you shovel snow? There was a kid in the news the other day. He made $35,000 in 4 days shoveling snow because he saw an opportunity in Seattle where it never snows. He had a truck with a snowplow, 18-year-old kid, $35,000 in 4 days. He saw an opportunity. You guys, we live in America. Really, there's no reason for anybody to be, well, yeah,
Yes.
to have poverty in America. Poverty, for the most part, is a choice in the United States. And even then, the most impoverished people really aren't poverty-stricken like in terms of the rest of the world. And we've got to stop having this poverty mentality. We aren't having to go through dumpsters to get our food. We aren't wondering where we're going to buy shoes or how we're going to get shoes for our kids. We can go to any thrift store and get a pair of shoes for $2 to $5, easy. A lot of these countries can't even go to the thrift store to try and do that. And so instead of whining about the brand new pair of whatever $150 shoes we have, Tell your kids, you can earn the money if you want it. Here's $5. We're going to the thrift store and getting them there. You know, that's what you've got to do. And people worry about their kids' college. Guys, your kids can pay for their own college. There's no reason for you to be paying for it. They can pay for it, period. And I mean pay. I don't mean go get student loans. I mean pay the money to go. Don't be charging up a whole bunch of student loans to do this.
But if you can get grants or something, I
Well,
would
yeah.
certainly do that. So she was actually talking to Shannon, but Cindy said, I think many of us wish our parents had shared more of the family's financial information and taught us financial wisdom before we had to make decisions for ourselves. That's part of the reason why
Yeah.
I like what we're doing, because my parents struggled with their finances, but they never ever shared that with us. And so when I got to the point of when I was in college and they said, and a credit card company said, hey, you want a credit card? I was thinking, oh, okay, because I had no idea. And so with us, our kids know all of our situation. We share with them when money comes in, when money goes out, when we have a financial catastrophe, what we're doing about it, how all of that works. And because of that, our son, who's 21, he got himself a job that's really good. But because of, I think, partly us being really open about everything, he has this extravagant plan as to how he wants to buy a house in the next...
With cash.
With cash. Well, with cash?
Well, that's his goal, is to pay cash. He's looking into mortgages and building his credit, but he said, what I want to do is try and pay cash for it.
But here, houses are really expensive, and people are paying like $1,200, $1,500 a month rent for a small apartment, and he wants to just jump straight from here to owning a house, and he's on that track. He's not on the cash track at the moment, but I don't know if we want him to live here that long.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we love our son, but
Yeah.
I forgot what her name was, but somebody had mentioned on those reverse mortgages, besides the fact that we think there's no time I would ever recommend one, but she said that she works as a nurse, and if people get one and they don't stay in the house for 3 months, they have to sell it and pay it all back.
Yeah, those are not good. Janet said, Tara, you saw an opportunity. Tightwad Gazette didn't cover meal prep recipes. You ID'd that gap. Oh.
And here you are.
And here I am. And guys, let me tell you something. This book is big. It took me 2 years to write it, okay? I was really sick. I had had 2 babies in the time since I'd started writing it. It was not an easy task. And I will tell you, more times than not, I have wanted to quit. And I will also tell you, in the last 20 years that we've been doing this, until the last 2 years, we really have not made what I would say was an income that was worth doing all of this. The last 2 years we have. But up until then, we really didn't make an income that was worth the hassle for us doing all of this. But we've stayed on it and we've kept going. And the thing is, it's all looking for that opportunity. They're all around us. They're all around us.
People used to tell it when we were super, super broke. People were telling us, or we would read things and hear from people who would say, there's opportunity everywhere. And I was thinking, where? I can't see it. What we realized is...
You're not looking.
Well, you're not looking, but honestly, having been there ourselves, I know that... I know what it's like to feel totally blind to that. But what we discovered is you can sort of see this direction would be better for me than where I am, but this direction might be more fun. And so I'm going to step in this direction and move this way. But eventually, the more you do that, you become more prosperous. And the more prosperous you get, the more you start to see those things that you never saw before, those opportunities that are there.
Yeah. And even even though we're doing better now, I went to the thrift store this weekend and I got my new shirt for $3. Anybody like it? I think I did pretty good.
Well, and generally, even when we have more money, we will not buy stuff that we would not have otherwise bought just because we have more money. And some things like cars, I know people value their cars, but a car should be, if a car gets me to where I want to go, it has heat and air conditioning, it's reasonably comfortable, but not like super snazzy, it has a radio that works, I'm good with that. I don't want to live in my car. So I'd rather put the money somewhere more valuable. And cars depreciate; they lose their value greatly and don't last that long. If you put it in a house or in other real estate properties or something like that, those things generate money, or at least don't cost you a massive amount of money and keep their value.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so let me just say a couple of things.
Yes, Kara, if you are broke, don't have pets. Dogs cost so much
Okay.
hidden expenses.
Oh my goodness. This really makes me angry. When people email us and they say, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. How am I supposed to afford paying for my pets? I'm on disability. If you are on disability, you do not be having
4 dogs.
4 humongous dogs that you have to spend $250 a month on food, let alone vet bills. That is just flat out irresponsible, period. Maybe a little tiny something or another, that's fine. But if you are that broke, you don't need to be having 20 different animals all around your house. It's ridiculous. Okay. Did I get that out?
Yep.
All right.
Patricia says, buy the book, you will love it. Yay.
Yes.
Actually, when we wrote it, it was largely to deal with people in the same situation that we were getting out of at that time.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. All right, guys. So a couple of things. First of all, my grandfather is doing a lot better. Thank you for those prayers. This grandmother right there that my finger is underneath, she was the one that I was having you guys pray for in my family. That's my dad's mom. She did pass away on Friday, so she is in heaven with Jesus now, singing her hymns and praises. So thank you for all your prayers with that. The funeral is Thursday. I won't be going to the funeral, but the funeral is Thursday. And my brother had his doctor's appointment today. And unfortunately, the doctor said that there's nothing that they can do. He needs to just try a different type of doctor. My brother is discouraged enough that he probably will just stop trying and figure out how to live with it. So,
Cassandra, does the new book have all different recipes or recipes in addition to the original? This one has more in addition to the original. Although somebody the other day said she didn't think she was going to get it because it still has a lot of the original stuff in here. And then she said she just loved it. I forgot who it was, but she was
really?
she was really liking the recipe cards and
Yeah.
stuff. But it has 100 more pages with recipe cards from a number of generations of Tara's family, 28 new recipes.
yeah.
And a story about kind of how we did what we did on this. And we do have another one we're working on eventually that would be totally new.
Yeah.
But we're not there yet on that one. So
Yep. All right, guys, please like, subscribe, and share. Please visit us at livingonadime.com because if you're complaining about buying our book, we have over 1,500 recipes and articles on how to save money and get out of debt on our website, livingonadime.com, and we have over 1,000 videos on YouTube. There is no excuse for you not to learn how to get out of debt and save money.
you don't have to buy it to actually
You don't have
save.
to buy it. We just have it all right here for convenience, but we put it out there for free, so those of you who do not have the money still can get the information. Please come back on Wednesday, tomorrow at 11 a.m. I am going to be making my homemade soap, probably. And we will be back Wednesday at 4:30, and we will see you guys then.
Oh, I guess I need to stop the show then, don't I? Thanks, everyone. We'll see you later. We sure appreciate you being here.
Yes.
Oops, except I didn't have the thing open. I need to use to turn it off. So you have us for
Yeah.
just a moment more.
Okay, so maybe we should give kisses. Is
By
that
the
a
way,
great to
Ramona,
sneak in kisses?
he saw a spine doctor. They did tell him he might be able to talk to a surgeon of some sort. But I don't think he has high hopes after what's happened with him up to now.
Yep.
So let's see. Okay, stopping the show now. Thank you again for joining
More
us.
kisses.
We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye. These are kisses from Nan.
Bye.